So Sam White is going to talk about the recycling problem in life science. Sam is the CEO of GreenLabs Recycling, which locally manufactures lab products using recycled lab plastic. Sam also co-founded Promethean Power Systems, Greentown Labs, and NanoIce. And Promethean Power is a thermal storage technology that enables over 80,000 farmers in India to cold store their milk and get it to market safely without the need for diesel generators. Greentown Labs is the largest climate tech incubator in the US with 140 clean tech startups, sharing wet labs and machine shops in Somerville and Houston. And Sam joined GreenLabs Recycling as their CEO last year. GreenLabs collects non-hazardous lab plastics and recycles it locally. And last year, they prevented over 100,000 pounds of plastic from going to landfills. Okay.
Thank you so much, Nicole. The timing for this conference could not have been better. The fact that healthcare produces more emissions than airlines. Healthcare produces more emissions than shipping. And I come from the climate tech world, and I had no idea about this. So putting conferences on like this is so important for all of our education. Just ironically to your point, Dan, before I jump into this, you mentioned microplastics and the impact of microplastics. And as a total side note, but my wife is a neuropsychiatrist at Brigham, and she got an NSF grant to research the impact of microplastics on the brain. So all these topics are really interconnected. So let's talk about the possibilities of recycling in terms of optimizing sustainability. GreenLabs is a niche recycler, and the reason why we're in business is because before 2018, biotechs had no problem recycling things like tip boxes and media bottles because they all went to China. But as soon as China stopped taking our trash, that caused a big problem for the biotech community in the whole country. What has happened is traditional waste haulers, such as Casella, Republic, Waste Management, they're all doing their jobs, but they are not recycling tip boxes or media bottles. We're trying to create some education around this real problem. And so we're creating a documentary to educate people. And I just want to show you the first 5 seconds of this problem to kind of dramatize what's happening, but it's not a dramatization, it's for real. The millions of these pipette tip boxes, there's a lot of confusion both for media bottles and tip boxes right here. What do? You put this tip box in that recycling bin, and it goes directly into landfill or incineration. And the waste haulers are making sure that this doesn't happen. So we predict that globally, every hour on the hour, an Olympic-sized pool is getting filled with tip boxes, single-use plastic. Just in the greater Boston area, there are about 5 million pounds of tip boxes being thrown into the incinerator or landfill. And we only collected almost 200,000 pounds last year. That is a drop in the bucket compared to the gap that we need to fill. And so we collect 2 streams. One is polypropylene, number 5, that goes in 1 box. And we also collect media bottles, which is number one, PET. Now, media bottles is a really interesting topic because there's so much confusion around whether these waste haulers are actually recycling the media bottles, because it's just PET bottles, right? What's the difference? But we literally had to do an investigative reporting to reach out to what's called MRFs in the recycling industry, material recovery facilities, and they all said that they're not recycling media bottles. And so this is you have some choices around how to recycle your tip boxes. You could use a mail-in service, or you could use a local service. And this kind of gives you an X-ray vision of how many tip boxes go into our standard floor box in the lab, and the mail-in box, you can put in about half. And there is a carbon footprint that is involved with recycling. With ours, we do use a truck, and we truck that recycling about 30 miles from the greater Boston area, and that accounts for about 116,000 pounds of CO2 equivalent. And we took a scenario of trucking via UPS from the lab, taking it to a local train depot and sending that across country to California by train, and then trucking it again. And that's more than double the carbon footprint. And I'd like to pause here and just give you some other tidbits about what to look for when you're choosing a recycler. And one thing I strongly suggest, besides just pricing and logistics, is do a site visit. You may have to take a flight to do a site visit, but find out where that plastic is ending up. Is it across country? Is it in a different country? It's really important because we need more transparency in this recycling process. And that's what we believe we've created at GreenLabs. This whole recycling, manufacturing, reuse, all happens within a 60-mile radius. So what happens is we collect your tip boxes and media bottles. These are granulated tip boxes. And from there, it can be either sold into the market, where someone will pay you a small amount of money for this polypropylene, or you can manufacture something. And I want to share with you, about a year ago, typically what you have to do when you manufacture something from recycled plastic is you have to pelletize these flakes. And what I mean by pelletize is make them uniform pellets so the injection molding machine goes smoothly. So we tried, and you also have to add, in many cases, virgin plastic, maybe 20% virgin plastic. So a year ago, we tried to manufacture these without pelletizing, without adding color, and without adding any virgin plastic, and this is what it came out to. You can kind of see some of the imperfections in color, which people love. And so now I want to share with you what our manufacturing looks like. So what you're going to see is the granulated plastic from pipette tip boxes. And what you see here on the right is a vacuum that is sucking up the granulates that's not pelletized directly into our mold, which is an injection molding process that melts the plastic and forms a part. And that part that you're looking at is, I'm excited to share with you. Thanks, Dan. Is this little, it's a slider for our tips box. I can have you touch and feel some of these boxes. There you go.
Got one.
And I'll show you another video where you'll be able to see these literally popping out from the injection molder. And where is this happening? 60 miles from your lab. And so Dan was also talking about community. And I want to talk a little bit about community as well. We couldn't have done this without advice from people like Jesse. Jesse, raise your hand. He spent countless hours with us looking at our design, making suggestions. Lab Central helped us test with autoclaving these things. It worked. Masha, please raise your hand. Masha lives and breathes sustainability. There's no one like Masha in our community that is so sincere about making an impact on climate in bioscience. So community is so important for Dan's group, for our group. And this is what we're really excited about, the prospect of recycling and returning this plastic in the form of this lab product. What you're holding now literally just came off the manufacturing line yesterday. So really good timing. Thanks for having me do this talk. And this is a data sheet that we provide every time we come and collect the plastic. We weigh that plastic. Data is going to become so important over the next 2 years. The SEC just came out with a ruling that public companies have to disclose their emissions. In California, even private companies have to disclose their emissions, not only their own emissions, but the emissions from the vendors that they use. So we're creating a live dashboard where for every pound that you recycle with us, we'll share the CO2 equivalent. With every purchase of this tips bin, you'll get the CO2 equivalent that would have replaced purchasing a 1-gallon Sharps container made out of virgin plastic. So we're really excited about the future. We're putting some R&D dollars into actually recycling nitrile gloves. There are a lot of claims out there that should be vetted. We're expanding to other biotech hubs very quickly. And we are working to put these media bottles into yarn, so ultimately we can manufacture lab coats. And now I'm going to share with you some news that it's the first time that we're publicly announcing a partnership with Veolia. Veolia already is a trusted vendor for your biohazard waste in your facilities, and we're going to make it really easy for Veolia just to add our services for you. And really, that's the talk. Call to action is, if you don't live in Boston and you have some questions around, how to recycle your tip boxes and media bottles, feel free to call us. If you do live in Boston, after this talk, I hope this kind of forces your hand to give us a call, and we will take care of your plastic in a way that is transparent. Thank you.